first, I wanted to just give my initial thoughts on the documentary. So, I thought the documentary was very good. I was entertained by it. I was horrified by it. I, this was my exposure to this red pill community, if you will. Um, I wasn't aware of anyone apart from Andrew Tate within the documentary. I wasn't really aware of these people. I was aware of the subject of the red pill community. I was aware of the abhorrent and misogynistic rhetoric that is sweeping the online community and is taking the interest of a lot of young boys and young men. But I wasn't aware of these specific individuals within the documentary, so it was quite eye opening for me. I thought Louis Theroux did a really good job, as he usually does in his documentaries. I think one thing I noticed is, and one thing I've seen other people writing about the documentary is, in most of Louis Theroux's documentaries, he's speaking to people that I would say most liberal people would very much dislike, if not hate. But what Louis Theroux is very good at is allowing them space to open up, and we end up getting a deeper idea of who they are and why they hold the views that they do. We still end the documentary not liking these people, but at least we have a more rounded view of who they are, why they are the way that they are, and why they hold such views. With this documentary, I didn't feel like that was the case, but I do think the nature of the subjects, the nature of the fact that they're always streaming, they're very suspicious of mainstream media in the first place. So there is a limit to how open they're going to be and how deep they're going to go into their lives and why they hold the views that they do. So I don't necessarily think that's the fault of Louis Theroux. I think it's just a subject that he has chosen to make this documentary on are going to be very suspicious. They're filming him the whole time to because they're suspicious of the way that the documentary is maybe going to be edited. They're just very suspicious of mainstream media in general. So I'm not sure that's Theroux's fault, but that is one of the things I did think initially after watching the documentary. One thing I've also seen, another criticism I saw, was that we didn't get much of a woman's standpoint, or the women within the documentary standpoint. They were asked questions, and their partners, their bosses in some circumstances, did shut them down and stop them from speaking, which was pretty hard to watch. And I do get the criticism that we weren't getting the women's standpoint as much. I understand from the documentary makers and Louis Theroux's standpoint that the subject is the manosphere, and so you've got an hour and a half to play with. The majority of the documentary is going to focus on the men within the manosphere and their views. I would say the criticism of there not being enough women's viewpoints is fair. I don't think that should have been in. I don't think. I'm trying to be very careful with my words here. I don't think that the hour and a half documentary could have shown more women's standpoints without. I think you're not going to make everyone happy, because like the men, if they focused on the women's standpoint in the hour and a half documentary, then the men would be unhappy, and and the fact that it's focused on the men within the manosphere, that some women are unhappy with it. I think maybe the solution to that is it could have been a two-parter. I think it could have been the documentary that they made, and another part could have been focused on the impact of these men and their rhetoric. So that could be looking at the 14, the 15-year-old boys that are consuming this content and believing this content, and the girls that are being subject to this rhetoric, whether that's from the consumers of the content, the 14 and the 15-year-old boys, or the OnlyFans models within the documentary itself. You could be speaking to the girlfriends of these men more. and in a separate, well, not separate, but like a two-part, a second part to the documentary surrounding the Manosphere and the impact that it has. So yeah, I mean, that's my initial views on the documentary itself.